Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Wednesday, September 17th. Got the sweatshirt on this morning, right? So, this morning we're going to talk about why little things end up mattering. We always talk about the big things, but the little things we have to pay attention to as well. So, stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric, if you didn't already know it. And yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Wednesday, the 17th of September 2025. So, what are we talking about? I'm talking about, in the repair shop, if you focus on the big things and the big jobs and you don't do the little jobs, eventually those little jobs are going to add up into a big job, right? Or a catastrophic event, right? It's like bringing a customer's machine in for a service, and I constantly am talking about going from front to back, right? Even if it's in there just for an oil change, you need to do the front to back because when it leaves your shop, 9 times out of 10, a customer is going to say if they have any problem, let's say a deck belt goes, that why didn't you fix it? You're a repair shop. Well, you told me just to change the oil in it. At some point in time, you have to come to the realization of who is running the repair shop. And as much as customers like to dictate what they want, it's not a good business policy. And it's not a good business policy for you or them because they don't know what they're talking about. And it makes you look like a not so good shop because you're missing things. And in reality, you're not missing things. It's just the customer said, just do an oil change. When a customer comes in and tells me they just want me to do the oil change on their lawnmower, whether it be a rider, push, what have you, I still do a front to back. And then I take and itemize everything that needs to be done on that machine. And then get a hold of the customer and say, okay, this is what we found. Your oil change is done. But here's the list of things that I think need to be taken care of before it leaves. And if the customer says, no, I don't really want that done, then simply have that itemized list right there and go as far as having the customer sign off on it, saying that they do not want to have that done or did not want to have that done. Does that still keep mud from landing in your face? No, because if somebody brought their machine in and within a week after leaving your shop, the deck belt broke, guess who's going to get the blame for it? Yeah, you. Those are the little things. The little things are maybe the you didn't take the time that was needed to tighten up the oil drain adapter that's on the side of the engine. I don't know how many came in this year and they were loose. So that tells me nobody's checking it. And even though they got engine oil, one customer brought his machine in because it wouldn't drive and the deck wouldn't work. And it was all because oil had saturated that whole front where that oil drain plug was, and it leaked all down through and onto the deck belt and the drive belt. There was no way that it could without slipping. But of course, when we explained that to the customer that it was a 2-minute fix, but that we had to pressure wash everything, and we have to replace both belts because now they're saturated in oil and slippage is going to be anything but going to happen, right? Had that came in and been part of the pre-check on that machine, it would have been caught possibly last year. And that machine I'm talking about, we haven't seen in 2 years. Yes, we do check that because we drain the oil when we do a service on a machine. And the first thing I do is I check by my hands to see if it's hand tight or if it's snug. If it's not snug, I put a socket on it and I snug it up with a deep well. And then I drain the oil. But I always make sure that's snugged up. We've had 3 cases so far this year where the oil filters were on finger tight. And I'm like, and those 3 we hadn't seen last year. You have to not only look for the obvious, but when it comes into your shop, it's imperative that you do a front to back. And I know that some customers are going to whine because you found things that need to be done and taken care of. Now, if it's in for a general service, oil change, check the belts, deck, miscellaneous like that, and you see things that wouldn't take a lot of time to do, and it didn't cost you anything, you can bring that to their attention that you did this and this and this, and no, I didn't bill you for it. We do that all the time. If a deck wheel is got the angle on it is bent, we straighten it back out. If we have to do a little bit of welding on the deck because we see a small patch that we want to take care of before it gets too cancerous, we will clean it all up, take and grind it down and weld the patch into it. A lot of times we don't bill for that because to me that's preventative. That means that deck can go another year without any problems, any structural problems. At the very least, you got to do an itemized list, and you still have to do that front to back, and you still need to charge that customer for the time you got involved doing that front to back. And doing that front to back can take anywhere from half an hour to 45 minutes. And that includes while you're doing the oil change. Because you can start the oil draining and then do your front to back while the oil is draining out. And a lot of times it takes a good 20 minutes for the oil to drain anyways. So you could be doing that while everything else is being done. If you find a dry belt that's got chunks in it, if you haven't got one, order one and put it on. And, customers are concerned about financial things these past 4 or 5 years. It's been a struggle for a lot of customers. And if they want it done and done right, you're going to have to pay. And the problem is if you try to, toggle things together so that the customer hasn't got that much money going out this year, it's going to be twice as hard next year when you have all those other things that you need to do now. Because of your toggling, you created more problems. When if it had been taken care of at the time of service, the customer would be spending less money. You would have less headaches, and the community at large would not think negatively of you because your customers are having issues with their mowers because you're not fixing them, you're toggling them. There's a difference between fixing and toggling. And the best way I can explain it to Claude when it comes to toggling, if that customer has to do one extra step than what they had done in the past to do something, then we're not doing our job. Like a key switch going bad. Well, I can put in an on and off switch and then a push button to start it. No, you're not. We're going to put a new switch on it. Because now you just added 2 more steps to that customer instead of just fixing the problem that was there. And that is ordering the correct key switch in and replacing the key switch. If it's somewhere else in the system and you're bypassing it by using a toggle switch and a push button, you've disabled safety stuff. Because good chances are it's a safety switch that's either defective or there's an issue with it, where it's gummed up and it's not working properly. Fix the real problems and don't toggle. If you want to toggle on your own machine, all the power to you. And I've seen machines come in from customers where they toggle stuff up. And one of the things that we do in the shop, and it drives some of our customers crazy, is if a machine comes in and the seat switches has been put a screw in it so that they don't have to worry about that, or other ones been disabled, before it leaves the shop, we enable them back to where they were. Because my insurance and your insurance in the shop covers liability. I have a $5 million rider policy. And that's so that if somebody gets on a lawnmower and gets hurt after it leaves our shop, we're covered up to $5 million. But here's the deal. If we allowed that machine to come in and left the screws in place and everything else, and it went out, we're at fault and can get sued very quickly, right? See, I tell Claude to picture it this way. A 10-year-old girl getting on the lawnmower for the first time and something happening and those safety switches not taking place. They're not working the way they should. That girl could get hurt. That could be your granddaughter. That's how I work it in the shop. And that's how you should be working it. You know, you do have to cover thy ass when it comes to possible, especially, you know, it's kind of died down a little bit compared to what it was 8-10 years ago. Everybody was too happy. It was like winning the instant lottery. If you could sue somebody and retire. Crazy. Can you remember that lady with McDonald's, like it was $10 million because the coffee was hot? What? Coffee's always hot. Well, we make iced coffee too. Yeah, well, but a cup of coffee that I have is hot. And I even started my kids when they were little of saying hot and cold, right? You should know that. And how she won, I don't know. Those are the little things that are going to get you. So the best way to approach any job when it comes into your shop and any customer is plan on doing a front to back. Plan on writing down, itemizing things that you see wrong that need to be taken care of. I go a step farther. I figure out what are the parts and how much is it going to cost. And then I figure out how much labor is going to be involved in doing all these things. And then I tally it all up. And there's my magic number. Then I call the customer and I tell them, look, your simple oil change is not going to have a carefree summer. You're going to have a lot of problems when it leaves here. We've got a list. I can go down through it with you, or you're looking at $250 to $300 to have it a good running machine most of the summer. We can't guarantee everything, but we can do a lot better job if we do a good job when it leaves here, when it leaves the shop. Because you got to be honest too, you know, with yourself that you don't have any control over what that customer is using it for. And I've said it before. We had one customer that was using an old Sabre with a bagger to feed his cows. He'd go out in the hayfield with that thing, and then he'd go through 3 sets of belts and blades in the summertime. And he was always having problems with it heating up. Well, you're not supposed to be cutting a hayfield with a single-cylinder Sabre. But that machine is still going today. How? I don't know. So you have to make sure that you take care of the little things, because the little things are what's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And the same thing goes for running your business. You can't concentrate on the big bills and don't pay any attention to where the money's going out in smaller amounts. You need to know where all your money's going. And I have one credit card that's just strictly fuel. And that's fuel for the shop to run and pick up and drop off and else. So I know exactly how much per month in fuel we're using in the shop. Right down to the last penny. And then I look at how many pickup and drop-offs did we have during that period? How much did we make on those pickup and drop-offs? And did it at least cover the fuel? Because I'll tell you, there's sometimes that it doesn't even cover the fuel. We've got a customer right now that wants us to go service his Generac standby generator, to do an oil change, check the filters, fuel filter. The problem is it's 67 miles away, one direction. And I know that he does not want to pay for Claude and I, or Claude, to drive the 67 miles to do a service on his generator and the 67 miles back. He wants to just pay for a general service on site. And $50 ain't going to cut it. And I know that if he goes to any other Generac service center, he's looking at $300 to $400, without a doubt. And that's if it was close. Because a lot of these shops, what they do is they start the clock the minute one of their guys leaves the shop, and they stop the clock when he gets back. And that's what the customers billed. Not only by mileage, but by hours. And those hours get added into the labor. And the mileage goes into the pickup and drop off, or the service when they get there. See, I've had companies come out of Syracuse to work on my big excavator and stuff, and they start charging the minute that driver gets in that truck and heads this way. And you're paying for his travel out and back, plus an hourly rate, plus parts. And if he's there all day long, it can get expensive. You need to make sure that you're looking at how much carb cleaner you're using, how much PB Blaster are you using, is it being billed to somebody? Because we ran into that. The PB Blaster and the carb cleaner was not being billed correctly. If Claude used a can of carb cleaner on a guy's tractor, the brakes, to get it clean, that should have been on it. And he just chalks it up to miscellaneous expense for the shop. Well, he doesn't pay for miscellaneous expense. I do. I don't nickel and dime my customers. I just roundabout, this is what we have involved hours. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times, if I see too many hours and I'm looking at the bill and I'm like, would I have a problem with this bill? Then I may take and knock off a couple hours of labor. Yep. But it's worked for me. And you got to find what works for you. You got to find what makes the customer feel comfortable that they can trust you. And that if you're telling them something that it's not being blown out, their ass, they're being honest with you. And that's the way I run my shop, is strictly honesty. I mean, sometimes you hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'd rather tell the customer the truth than give them all this false hope and then have it fail. On the flip side, I also don't sit there and say, well, this got a threshold warranty on this and this and this when we do service work and stuff. If that machine leaves and it comes back for the same problem within a week, we didn't do our job. If it comes back for a different problem, did we do our job? And I got an example. A Cub Cadet just went out, last Thursday. And he mowed part of his yard, and then it went into a spit and sputtering fit. We just did a service on his machine, front to back, pressure washed it all up, put stuff on the valve covers to get it all straightened, but Claude didn't do the valves while he was right there, so that could be it. Could be a coil breaking down. It could be, because I thought the motor mounts looked like they were loose when that engine. Those things you should have caught, right? If you're doing a front to back. And the worst thing you can do is be out there micromanaging and slave driving your mechanics, because they will overlook a lot trying to get stuff done. So you need to give them the time and the space to do stuff too. My job is out front. My job is out back too, making sure things are in and out on a timely basis, and picking up the slack wherever I can. And 90% of the time, I'm the one talking to the customer. But in the comments, tell me what you think, with running your shop. Do you keep track of the little things? And when somebody comes in and says they want just oil change, do you do just an oil? Or do you do it front to back? Curious to know. So on that note, you guys have a great Wednesday, and we'll catch you here bright and early tomorrow morning for another day of the weekday. You guys enjoy.